Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey, traveling back in time over 7,000 years to a moment that fundamentally reshaped human civilization. We're heading to the year 5454 BC now. I know what you might be thinking. That sounds incredibly specific. What on earth happened in 5454 BC? Well, you're in for a surprise. This isn't about a single, dramatic event like a famous battle or the crowning of a king. Instead, it's about a quiet yet profound revolution that was unfolding across the globe. A period that set the stage for everything that came after. So, let's set the scene. The Great Ice Age is a distant memory. The world is warmer, wetter, and greener. Humanity is transitioning from a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a more settled agricultural one. This is the heart of the Neolithic period, or the New Stone Age. And the year 5454 BC places us right in the middle of this incredible transformation. Forget what you see in movies about primitive cavemen. The people of this era were intelligent, innovative, and deeply connected to their environment. Let's start our journey in a region often called the cradle of civilization, the Fertile Crescent, in the Middle East. Around 5454 BC, communities here were flourishing. Imagine sprawling villages made of mud brick houses, neatly arranged, some even with 2 stories. These weren't temporary camps, they were permanent homes. The people here were expert farmers. They had domesticated wheat, barley, lentils, and chickpeas. They had also domesticated animals like goats, sheep, cattle, and pigs. This agricultural package was a game changer. For the first time, communities could produce a surplus of food. This surplus had a ripple effect that we can't overstate. It meant not everyone had to be a farmer. Some people could specialize in other skills. In a village from this time, you would find skilled potters, creating beautiful and functional ceramic vessels for storing grain, water, and oil. Before pottery, people used baskets or leather bags, which weren't ideal for liquids or cooking. With pottery, they could cook stews and porridges, revolutionizing their diet. These pots weren't just functional. Many were decorated with intricate geometric patterns, showing a desire for beauty and a developing artistic culture. Beyond pottery, we see the emergence of other crafts. Weavers were turning flax into linen textiles. Toolmakers were honing their skills, not just with chipped stone tools, but with polished stone axes that were far more effective for clearing forests for farmland. This specialization is a cornerstone of complex societies. It creates interdependence, social structure, and eventually trade. A potter could trade their pots for a farmer's grain or a weaver's cloth. This is the very beginning of a market economy. Now, let's travel west, across the Mediterranean, to Europe. The agricultural revolution that began in the Near East was slowly spreading across the continent like a wave. Around 5454 BC, it was reaching Central and Western Europe. This wasn't an invasion. It was a slow diffusion of ideas, technologies, and possibly small groups of people migrating and mixing with local hunter-gatherer populations. We see the rise of what archaeologists call the linear pottery culture, named for their distinctive pottery with incised linear decorations. These people built large, long wooden houses, big enough for an entire extended family to live in. They cleared patches of fertile soil along rivers to plant the same crops that originated thousands of miles away in the Fertile Crescent. It's an amazing example of the first wave of globalization. But what about the people who were already there? The Mesolithic hunter-gatherers of Europe didn't just disappear. For centuries, and in some places for millennia, these two different ways of life existed side by side. Imagine the interactions. There would have been trade, with farmers offering grain and pottery, and hunter-gatherers offering forest products, flint, and knowledge of the local landscape. There would have been conflict, too, over land and resources, but there was also cultural exchange and intermarriage. The story of Neolithic Europe is a complex story of migration, adoption, and coexistence. Let's shift our focus to another part of the world, Asia. In China, a similar agricultural revolution was happening, but it was completely independent. Around 5454 BC, communities along the Yellow River were domesticating millet, a hardy grain, perfect for the local climate. Further south, along the Yangtze River, other groups were cultivating rice in wet paddies. Just like in the Middle East, this agricultural base led to settled villages, pottery production, and the domestication of animals like pigs and dogs. It's a powerful reminder that human ingenuity isn't confined to one place. Faced with similar challenges and opportunities, people in different parts of the world independently came up with the same brilliant solution: farming. Now, you might be wondering about the spiritual and social lives of these people. While they left no written records, their burials and artifacts give us incredible clues. In many Neolithic sites, we find carefully arranged burials. People were often buried with grave goods, like pottery, tools, or personal ornaments. This suggests a belief in an afterlife, a journey that required provisions. It shows us that they cared for their dead and had complex rituals and belief systems. We also see the first hints of large-scale communal projects. In some parts of Europe, communities were beginning to build monumental structures, like the early passage tombs that would later evolve into famous sites like Newgrange in Ireland. These structures would have required the coordinated labor of hundreds of people over a long period. This tells us that their societies had leaders, or some form of social organization capable of planning and mobilizing the community for a common goal, likely tied to their religious or ancestral beliefs. Thinking about 5454 BC also forces us to reconsider our relationship with the planet. This was the moment we truly began to reshape the natural world on a large scale, clearing forests for farms, diverting water for irrigation, and concentrating human and animal populations in one place had a permanent impact on the landscape. It was the beginning of the Anthropocene, the age of humans. This transition brought incredible benefits: food security, technological innovation, and the foundation for cities and states. But it also brought new challenges: increased labor, a less diverse diet, new diseases that could jump from livestock to humans, and social inequalities. So, the year 5454 BC wasn't a year of a single headline-grabbing event. It was a snapshot of a world in profound, dynamic transition. It was a time when the seeds of our modern world were being sown in the fertile soil of human innovation. From the mud-brick villages of the Near East to the longhouses of Europe and the rice paddies of China, Our ancestors were laying the groundwork for everything we know today. They were the original pioneers, the first farmers, the first engineers, and the first artists to shape a new way of being human. The next time you eat a piece of bread or a bowl of rice, take a moment to think back over 7,000 years to the world of 5,454 BC and the incredible legacy of these ancient innovators. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. Let me know in the comments which time period you'd like to explore next. Until then, stay curious.